on this Friday. Meteorologist Dante Jones. You know what? And here I go again with this clickable thing here, just and my name and all that good stuff, and it just kind of takes away from me. Let me sit up now. So hey, let's talk weather because there's a lot going on. You know how we always, every time it's winter, even though this winter hasn't been a bad one, we always say, you know, we're ready for spring, we want warmer temperatures and this and that. And I get it, and I'm the same way because I hate winter. But what we got to take when we get to spring, the transition of the seasons before spring really starts to settle down in May. In March and April, we get these severe thunderstorms. And, you know, here it's okay, but the Great Plains states, they really deal with those monster tornadoes. You know, there are more tornadoes in the United States than any other country in the world because of the cold, dry air from Canada, warm, moist air from the Gulf of Mexico, and we got these systems that come through and provide, you know, wind shear and instability and what have you, and that just really spawns off those monster tornadoes. Tonight has been one of those nights where don't know if you've been glued to any of the national weather channels or what have you. Even the national news outlets are showing, as well as us, are showing the damage that these tornadoes are causing in Little Rock, Arkansas. A lot of damage there. Some tornadoes in other states as well, in Iowa and Tennessee and things like that. So it's really been a historic night as far as the weather setup goes, as far as the atmosphere. And so the meteorologists have been saying, you know, this for the Plain States for tonight, the situation is particularly dangerous. And so big setup. We're going to tell you about what we're watching and what's going on. But big picture here, that same line of thunderstorms headed eastward, and it's going to head in our direction overnight tonight. And so the threat that we have is for overnight. Now, the threat is not as imminent and as large as the threat is for the Great Plains states. Now, because it's going to be nighttime, the instability isn't there. That line of thunderstorms is going to lose a lot of its luster by the time it gets here. But it still could pack enough of a punch that we see some really gusty winds, an isolated tornado, some heavy rain out of that. And it's when you're asleep. So we gotta warn you. We gotta let you know that this is coming overnight. We're gonna walk you through it. Of course, we're gonna take our time here because we're on Facebook Live. You know, on TV, we got about 3 minutes and that's it. You got to keep going. And so, of course, we always say look at our app, look at our website, where you put up the graphics that we show on TV there, so you kind of look at it at your leisure in greater detail, what have you. Here, I kind of just use the format of the TV broadcast, but just kind of take it slow and kind of explain what's going on, so that someone on Twitter yesterday said, hey, Dante, can you slow down on those weather maps? And I said, gotcha, I understand. Sometimes there's just so much information that we want to get out there to you, but in a 3-minute period of time. But I constantly, as a communicator, as someone who presents things, I try and figure out what's the best way I can do that. And in broadcast meteorology circles, we like these maps. We like all this information. And so we try and get a lot of it out there in 3 minutes, and sometimes you just can't digest it. And sometimes I go by the philosophy that simpler is better. And so if I'm not showing you, 12 and 13 fancy maps, but just showing you 5 simple maps that just drive home the point, even if it's the future cast, so I can take it slow and let you digest it each time frame, then I think that's a little better. And so I'm working on that to try and just, especially in these situations where there's a lot that could happen. And sometimes if you're not as savvy of getting on the internet or looking at the apps or what have you, that's where that really comes into help, because you want the information and we want to give it to you, but it just doesn't always happen in 3 minutes. And sometimes we sparse it up. We get another weather hit in the same hour of news, and sometimes we sparse it up in there and try and give you a chunk here in the first half hour and another piece of the chunk in the second half hour. But here, at least on Facebook Live, we get to digest it all in one big swoop. All right, so let's talk about the big picture. All right, I'd like to start off with a summary. Sorry for the darkness there. clicked on the graphic a different way. But so tonight, the showers and the wind this evening. So if you're headed out this evening, it's going to be, for the most part, relatively benign. I mean, we could see maybe some shower activity overnight in the evening, maybe an isolated thunderstorm. So the showers, yes. Isolated thunderstorm, possible. But it's overnight tonight. It's the line of storms that we're watching in the Great Plains states. That'll move through Ohio. And so that's what we're really pinpointing is overnight tonight. The weekend, the first half of the weekend is yucky. You'll notice tomorrow that we get some sunshine and temperatures around 60 in the morning with some gusty winds. Going to be beautiful tomorrow morning. But then it quickly turns into a nightmare for tomorrow afternoon, where the temperatures plummet as this cold front comes through, and we get a rain-snow mix, and then some snow showers in the evening. For the snow belt, you could get like 1, maybe 2 inches of snow, so mainly grassy surfaces. And then next week's not bad. Temperatures in the 60s and 70s next week. A wet start for the first few days, and then the second half of the week is drier. So there's a lot going on here in the forecast. I mean, it's spring after all. So, all right, here's the big picture, satellite and radar. You see that right there, those red boxes, those are tornado watch boxes there. So that line of thunderstorms moving through the Plain States and now moving through the Midwest and the South as it pulls eastward. Those are the tornado watch boxes. I like this view too because you get a chance to look at all the watch boxes. And so what you see just to the south of us, the darker yellow, those are the wind warnings, the high wind warnings, and then the brighter yellow or the wind advisory. So wind warnings mean gustier winds. Wind advisory is not as gusty, but still gusty enough to disrupt things. That's the tornado watch box in the red. And then look at all those little yellow and red things. So the little red are the tornado warnings. So just south of Memphis, there's one. Just to the west of Nashville, just to the north of St. Louis, there's one. Just to the west of Chicago, there's a couple. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tornado warnings now. And then the yellow is the severe thunderstorm warning. So, you know, you got some of those along that line as well. Then further north, north of looks like Waterloo and Omaha, those are blizzard warnings and winter weather advisories and whatnot. So this system is a huge system that's causing all sorts of chaos. And that's what happens when you live at what we call these latitudes. Remember the latitude and longitude in science class or what have you? So that's what happened to these latitudes where the weather changes so much. And we're not going to be any different tomorrow, where we go from 60 the first part of the day and sunshine to snow showers in the evening. And that's this right there. So there's that front that's going to be coming through, and that front that all those rain and thunderstorms are lined up on. And so the gusty winds, the heavy rain, the isolated tornadoes right along that front. So there's 3 in the morning. We pause it there. Look where that is, right over northeast Ohio. And then behind it is that dry slot. That dry slot is tomorrow morning. And so before the cold air, that secondary cold front gets in here, we have warmer temperatures that get to about 60 degrees by 11 o'clock in the morning or so. But then that secondary cold front that's not dry, you can look at those clouds. You see those clouds up there over towards Toledo, down towards the middle part of Indiana, Illinois. We can call that the secondary cold front. So when that secondary cold front gets in here, wham, that's when the rain-snow mix starts. And then in the evening, the scattered snow showers right along the snow belt, right along the lake there. And then cold temperatures to start off Sunday morning. So because of that front line of gusty winds there, we got a wind advisory that goes into effect tomorrow, 8 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon, because the wind gusts are up to about 50 miles an hour. Now, we could see some sporadic power outages. We're not talking about the hundreds of thousands of power outages that we saw last weekend, because those wind gusts were 60 to 70 miles an hour winds. I think 72 mile an hour was the highest we saw last weekend. So this one is topped at about 50, maybe 51, 52. So anytime we get these higher wind gusts like this, of course, we have some sporadic power outages. So just know that we'll get some of those as we get into tomorrow. And then any other thing that you may need to tie down or bring inside or what have you, you might want to do that because the winds are going to kick up as this front just barrels through here tomorrow. All right, here's a satellite and radar, again, just kind of showing you where that front is situated and where all those tornado watch boxes are, look at all of the local storm reports that we have gotten here. So out west in the mountains there, you see all the snow reports. And then move a little towards the east, you see all the wind reports there. And then a little further south, and then even in behind some of those wind damage reports, you can see those tornado reports. So there's a lot of damage coming our way, or that's a lot of damage that's out west in the storm system is coming our way. Even up just in northern Illinois, northern Indiana, you're starting to see some of those wind reports come in. And some of those are just wind gusts. Some of those are just saying we got some gusty winds over 50, 60 miles an hour. So severe thunderstorm criteria, you got to have wind gusts over 58 miles an hour, so practically 60 miles an hour. So that's what some of those are, saying we got some wind gusts over 60 miles an hour with some of these storms. And then others are saying we actually got some damage from those 60 plus mile an hour wind gusts from these storms. So I say all that to say that that same system's coming our way. And so as we get into the overnight hours, we got to watch it, because it's the possibility that we could see some impacts from that in the way of wind damage, maybe some minor flooding, maybe an isolated tornado. And it's coming at an inopportune time when a lot of folks are asleep in the wee hours of the morning. Right now, temperatures are nice and warm in the 50s. And this is actually around what our daytime high should be. We reached about 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And so right now we should probably be in sun's going down, maybe the mid 40s. So we should be about 10 degrees cooler right now if it were average, if it were normal. But it's not. We're under a warm front, southerly flow of wind. And the wind is coming at a good clip too, 10 to 20 miles an hour sustained out of the south-southwest. And then every now and again, we'll get a gust of about 25 miles an hour. So that's backed off. But look over towards Finland. You got a 36 mile an hour gust. But as the front gets closer towards us, that's when the winds really start to pick up. And that's when the winds start to pick up, it really ushers in a lot more of that warmer air up here. So you'll notice if you're up at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, if you get awakened by some of these storms that come through here with the gusty winds and cracks of lightning and thunder, let's say you head outside or so, you'll notice that, wow, it's nice as far as temperatures go. It's in the 60s. And there's 2 o'clock in the morning. They're the 45 mile an hour wind gusts as these storms move through here. And then by tomorrow afternoon, noontime, that's when the 50 mile an hour wind gusts come in. So that's why the 8 to 4 time frame, because as that front gets closer, it really starts to, those winds start to howl. But then they slowly subside. Once they get through here, then through the course of the afternoon and the evening, the winds subside, and then Sunday looks like a pretty calm day. So that's good for Sunday in that we're going to have some sunshine, temperatures are going to be near 50, and the winds are going to be, for the most part, calm to light. So that means it'll actually feel like it's about 49, 50 on Sunday, as opposed to, sure, it's sunny, and we got temperatures a little milder, but we got to deal with this gusty wind that makes it feel so cold. Winds are calmer, thankfully, for Sunday. All right, so here is tonight, again, 2 in the morning. Temperatures around 60, and then we head towards tomorrow. There's 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. Look how warm the temperatures are, right around 60. But then through the afternoon, that front comes through here by 5 o'clock. We're in the upper 30s to lower 40s, and that's just the temperature. Remember, the winds are going to be gusting up to about 40 miles an hour by 5 o'clock, 35, 40 miles an hour, so it'll feel like we're in the 20s. So if you're headed out Saturday evening, just know it's going to be cold, where we're going to feel like we're in the 20s. And then how about actual 20s by Sunday morning? If you're headed to services Sunday morning, it's going to be cold. We'll start off in the mid to upper 20s. But again, the winds are going to be calmer then, so it'll feel like we're in the 20s as well. So here's tonight, about 10 o'clock, stop it there. Scattered showers around, maybe an isolated thunderstorm, but that's not what we're watching there. That's just tonight before the front gets here, some scattered showers. Now that's what we're watching right there. So 1 o'clock in the morning, that's the line of thunderstorms that is causing all the havoc in the Plain States. So it's just to the east of 75 there. So Port Clinton, Tiffin, down to Bellefontaine, they have a better chance. Notice that geometry of that line. So it's still kind of held together right there. So they have a better chance out west of seeing the severe part of this line than those in the east, because once we fast forward to say 2:30, notice how it's kind of disjointed. It kind of weakens a little bit. That's not to say though that you still see that orange and yellow and red, so we still have some storms that are holding together, but they just don't have the potential. Now that they moved a little eastward and it's nighttime, they don't have the potential as they did out west to create as much havoc. But there is still some potential. So we still have to watch these storms as they move through the Cleveland metro down to Akron and Medina and Worcester and Mansfield about 2 to 3, 4 in the morning. For, again, the gusty winds, the heavy rain, maybe some hail, and then the isolated quick spin up tornado with this as well. So we have to watch that. But then by 5 o'clock, it's out of here. And notice the skies are clearing. So the time frame we're talking about is from about 1 in the morning to 4 in the morning, and then we're done with it. Skies are clearing, temperatures are warm, winds are gusting. Then there's the afternoon right there. It's where we get to 4 in the afternoon, and you see the rain and the rain-snow mix and the gusty winds and the temperatures cooling off. So I'd say from the time you wake up Saturday morning until about noon, look for some sunshine, warm temperatures, and breezy to gusty winds. But then about noon onward, you're going to start to notice a market difference and change. And then, look at this for good measure, 9:30, scattered snow showers. And it's mainly in the snow belt where you could pick up about 1 to 2 inches. So again, enough to get the grassy surfaces, maybe briefly the sidewalk or what have you, or maybe the streets. But it's been so warm lately that the sidewalk and the streets aren't going to stay quick. I think quickly once we get into Sunday afternoon, that's going to melt away because you got sunshine, you got temperatures rising above freezing, but the grassy surfaces will take the brunt of that. And then there's Sunday afternoon with plenty of sunshine. So again, looking at the threats with these, notice how, and I noticed if you look at that, if you look at the map and you look just to the left of that yellow, it sort of looks like a brown color, right? Well, that's supposed to be that up at the legend, that to the right of Slight, that's supposed to be that orange enhanced. I don't know why that color looks so crazily different. I think Jen Harcher used a map at noon that actually had the orange, so I may have to at some point maybe switch to her map going forward and try and figure out a way to make this color a little differently. But this is the way it just comes, but that orange enhanced looks nothing like the map. It looks brown on the map to me anyway. Maybe I might be colorblind, I don't know, but I'm not, because on Jen Harcher's map she showed at noon it was orange. But I say all this to say that to the left of that, the marginal, the green, that's the smaller chance of seeing any severe weather. The Slight, a little better chance. The enhanced, even better still, moderate, high, those are of course better chances to see severe weather. So the further west you head in Ohio, the better chance you have to see the severe weather. So remember what I showed you a few minutes ago, where that line along 75 was a little better organized, but then by the time it moved eastward, it got disjointed and wasn't organized, so a lower threat. So that's why out west, the enhanced threat, a little further east, the slight threat, and then eastward still, the marginal threat. So thankfully it wanes as it enters a lot of northeast Ohio. So that 54 is I think we'll get there probably right before sunrise, and then the temperatures quickly shoot up again to 59, 60 degrees. You could either say this 59, 60 could come at 2 o'clock in the morning and again at 11 o'clock in the morning, right before the storm system gets here. So the 8-day forecast, after all this mess that comes through, the possibility of, which by the way, just want to tell you, always want to kind of keep this in mind. I know some of you, and over my 11 years now, of being a meteorologist, some of you I know are deathly afraid of storms, and especially once we mention the word tornado, you're like the cat on the roof, or the cat on the ceiling, and you're just like, oh God. This is just a possibility. We are not saying that it's a foregone conclusion. There are going to be tornadoes. But we just have to keep you apprised. It's better that we warn you and say that the ingredients are there for an isolated. We like to use that word isolated because we're not in the Great Plains states where it's almost imminent. It's just isolated. The ingredients are there, but just because the ingredients are there, it doesn't always materialize. But we just want you to be careful and be safe. So I don't want anyone to think that we're trying to hype it. No. But what we do is we look at what have these storms done previously. This gives us an indication of what they have the potential to do. I like to use the analogy, your son or your daughter in school, you know that they're smart and they have the potential to get A's and B's, but they don't always live up to that potential. Sometimes they bring home some C's and you're like, okay, come on, where you are smarter than this. It's there. Why aren't you using your brain cells and your capacity to learn to bring home the A's and B's? For whatever reason, they don't. Same with the atmosphere. The storms have the potential to wreak havoc, but they don't always tap into that potential. And so it's for us to tell you, hey, they have the potential, in case they want to realize that, to spawn off this or that or the other, but sometimes they don't. So we would not be good meteorologists if we knew they had the potential. Like, they may or may not. Whatever. We got to let you know. So I just say all that to say, I don't want you to go to sleep overly worried and thinking that, my goodness, we're about to have a tornado outbreak like they're having in Iowa or Illinois or what have you. That's not the case here. Any tornadoes that we get will truly be isolated, and they won't be as strong as those monsters in the plain states, okay? So just the best thing you can do for yourself is just stay with us, before you go to bed, check in online, on the app, what have you, and have a way for an app or something to wake you up if something comes your way that could be potentially life-threatening, okay? But it's the isolated chance, so you're okay, and we're all okay. We'll all get through this. But I will say it's the beginning of the season, and we got to keep these same thought patterns in mind as we go throughout the season, because we're just getting started with this severe weather. So, all right, but there's some good news. Enough of that. There's some good news. Sunshine 48 coming our way on Sunday. Going to be a much better day. Monday, mix of sun and clouds. There's 61, 65 on Tuesday with scattered showers. 72 for Wednesday. Wednesday, another front coming through. 72, going to feel nice. Some thunderstorms there. And then we drop to 50, so it's not as cold. It's a little bit closer to seasonable. Seasonable this time of year, about 53 or so. 50. Guardians home opener next Friday. If you're going to that, so far looking good. Partly cloudy, temperatures around 50. Sure, it's cool. It's the beginning of the season. You're going to have to dress warm. We know that. And then Easter weekend, so far looking okay. 57, mostly cloudy skies, dry for now. But notice those 20% that I have in there. Those 20% are, when I put that in there, it's sort of, how the sauce is made, if you will. I look at two of our main weather models, and then a third one sometimes if I need a tiebreaker. And so when I put a 20% in there, especially that far out, it's usually one model saying you're going to have rain, snow, whatever. And another model says, no, you're going to be bone dry. And if it's that far out, like 8 days from now, I'm going to say, look, a lot can happen in 8 days. So I'm not going to side with one model or the other and say, oh, no, we're going to go with 0% or we're going to go with 100%, what have you. I've dealt with these things long enough in the 11 years to know that it will change. Some of those models will change. And so we'll just keep that in there for now as a placeholder, if you will. All right, so hopefully that gave you some insight of what's going on. Again, just a brief summary. Same line of storms that's wreaking havoc out in the plain states coming our way overnight. They have the potential, the main threat, gusty winds, heavy rain, a secondary threat, an isolated quick spin-up tornado. It could happen, but I don't want you to focus on that necessarily and work yourself up into a tizzy, but there is the possibility that it could. And then it's out of here at 4 in the morning, and we got a great Sunday with sunshine lined up for you. All right, so Mackenzie Bart is going to be here to do the 10 o'clock p.m., so she'll give you the very latest on what's happening, anything changing or anything we're noticing that's different. She'll get you updated through that. She and Jen Harcher, who will be on in the morning, she and Jen Harcher will kind of work through the overnight and track the storm system that's coming through. And if there's a tornado warning, they have to hop on air, they're going to do that. If there's not even a tornado warning, but just a robust thunderstorm, that strong or severe thunderstorm that's barreling through here and wreaking havoc with just the straight line gusty winds, they'll get on Facebook Live here, and they'll get you through and tell you what's going on there. So stay up to date. So stay up to date with us here online and on TV, and we'll keep you updated. Until then, everybody have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.